Alrighty, everybody, what is going on? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. I hope everybody out there is having a splendid go of it this weekend. I know I certainly am. David, how are you doing over there? You're looking pretty serious right now.
I am currently doing things while the show is going on, just to spite you.
I mean, that's normally what you're doing, and you're also my little fact checker, and you're my little mole. I might just start calling you Gopher Boy. Or no, we gotta bring back Cave Baby. Cave Baby is what it is. So I think that might be, we're just gonna, that could be like your dub. You're just gonna be, instead of David, like we'll like voice over you, like me saying David will be like, Cave Baby. Like we'll just do like some JoJo dub bad shit. So we're gonna do that. So you are officially Stat Boy Cave Baby. Dude, he's not even paying attention. He's just looking at things and not listening to me at all. Before we get going,
I mean, I rarely do listen to you in these shows anyway.
You listen enough, okay? Because you do are there. No, you know what annoys me when you actually don't listen and you don't correct me. And then I get annoyed because it's not my job to actually know what I'm talking about. That's your fucking job. It's not mine. I'm just here to say shit. That's why it's the Alex Cuesta Show. I just say things. You're just the guy that tells me I'm a moron at times. Which, yeah, but you should be correcting me all the time.
Wrong. It's funnier when you get it wrong.
I mean, it is. Before we get going into anything else, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Let everybody know that you are a real big fan of Stat Boy K Baby because he is a swell guy. And as always, socials, you know, we're not popular enough for any of you to deserve it yet. So you're not doing your job. Therefore, I'm not going to actually give you the tags. Go search the Alex Cuesta Show wherever you can find any type of social media. We'll be there. Don't know how active we will always be, but we will be there. So we're going to have a good show today. It's going to be fun. We are joined by our good buddy that likes to jump on every once in a while and try to use the 3 people that listen to us to spread his music a little more. He is HACKnoCAP. What up, Hack?
What up, dude? I love the intro.
Yeah, it's jazzy now, right? Yeah.
They were on some shit when they made that.
Yeah, it's definitely it was a little session with me and Dave where I was like going back and forth on certain ones, and this one came up and it both were just like absolutely that is the anthem to our show. Like that is the Alex Cuesta Show. It's just so, how can you not be in a pretty decent mood to then get mostly topics that are going to bring you down on this show? Like you start off high with a really jazzy, cool song, and then we talk about something political normally where liberals are fucking something up and leftists are being retarded. And then there you go. But then we bring you on to bring us depressing music.
It's not all depressing. A lot of it is, but it's about coping.
So you have been back to the lab working on a lot of things. Last time we talked to you, Hack, it was single season. You dropped a few singles throughout that time. Now, it's snow in New York where I'm recording right now. The day I'm recording, I just got 3 inches of snow, made one of the most badass fucking snowmen I ever made in my life with my kids.
Is that right?
Thing is, it's 5 feet tall. It's a dope ass snowman.
But you guys got like that much snow?
We got like 4 inches of snow, but it's like perfect packing snow. Like start rolling on the ground and it just eats everything the fuck up. It's cartoon snow where it gets like gigantic and makes an avalanche. And we just made a gigantic snowman. It was fantastic. And it's rocking a Jets hat because I like to torture a snowman like I like to torture us. But what have you been working on a lot of music lately? I think the last time we spoke, you said you are getting ready to almost drop an EP or experimenting on something else. I'm going to let you talk about your music real quick.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, my name is HACKnoCAP. You could search me on Apple Music, Spotify, anywhere you major music streaming platforms. I've been debating whether I want to drop a pop punk kind of EP or if I want to make another like free time, me time kind of thing and call it 3 time and then combine it into like 3 separate parts. So I'm debating on it. It all depends on the quality because like the third one's got to be like the grand finale of the times. You know what I mean?
I'm curious if you keep going with the times, if you do wee time with the furry outfit, would Taylor Swift sue you?
Absolutely not. We're not going past 3 time. And it's going to be like Kobe. I'm going to sit there with like, I don't know. I got to come up with a cool cover art. That's kind of the same as the other ones.
It's similar, but it definitely has to be otaku because if people don't realize that you're a weeboo by looking at those covers, then they're obviously not weebs. So, I guess you're marketing to the people that know you.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So we're going to start off the show as we always do when we have you on, Hack. We're going to do a few clips of some songs that you're getting ready to release. Last time you were on, we did IDKY. I think it's IDKY is the one we did. And we did another one. I forget which other one we did. It was a while now. Got to go back and listen to it. That's how great of a prepared host I am. I don't even remember what I did the last time I had you on. And it really wasn't that long ago.
It was the not every day's a day or something.
Something like that. But it's always good. And that's, we're going to do a few snippets of songs. We're going to start off with a song coming out titled Regularly Scheduled Programming. Tell me a little bit about the inspiration of, why this song. Is there a reason behind making it? What's up? What's good with this song?
I mean, there's a reason behind everything I do, but it's just kind of like due to recent events, going like just getting back into like the swing of like just being bored, it's getting up and doing the same thing every day. And it's like, oh, well, now back to your regularly scheduled programming. I had a good time beforehand, and now it's kind of reality is back upon us and we're getting back into the swing of things, and same thing every day.
All right. So with that, we're going to throw on the snippet for regularly scheduled programming, and then we'll jump into the next one here.
Yeah.
If it plays. Doesn't want to play. Cool. It's going to play. Here we go.
Every day I'm waking up and it's the same thing. I'm not even comprehending what my brain think. Like my world hit the shitter and the shit stinks. Nothing really matters, it don't matter what the fame bring. My heart's broken, yes it's true. Drill me in the wood because I'm always screwed. Look into my eyes, yeah I'm a lonely dude. But everything is getting better when I think of you. Do you love?
So one theme with a lot of the songs, we're doing 3 songs, I think, today. And one of the themes that I got from these is you're tired of anybody saying that you can't rap, because I think you snap in each song at least once.
Yeah.
So you can hear, if anyone that wants to doubt if Hack has talent in rapping, just come on, just stop it. Just stop. Because he does. Yeah,
Hack is that I feel like I've only especially with the EPs, I've only released like some actual rapping stuff. And I that's how I started, I grew up listening to like Blink-182 and all that, but like Dave knows freaking Eminem was on repeat, dog. Kendrick, whenever he dropped, like Kanye, like those are my true inspirations, and just being able to do it all. And I just want to prove to people that, I'm better at writing poetry than I am at screaming into a mic.
What's wrong with screaming into a mic, Joe?
Oh, there's nothing wrong about it. We're going to be doing a lot of that today. So.
Oh, we're definitely going to be, I don't know if we're going to be yelling. I think we're going to be in agreement on a lot of it, but we're going to go ahead. Another song that we're previewing here is named Great. Mm-hmm. What's great about this? Haha, intended.
It's about like, when you break up with somebody, it's kind of like getting over it. You're getting over the hump, and it's just like, hey, it's like you realize that, oh, I didn't even think about this person today. So it's about like that positiveness, but it's also like kind of ironic that you realize you didn't think about them, which makes you think about them at the same time.
So let's get this snippet while we're here.
I didn't think about you today, but I'm okay. Yeah, I'm doing great.
So it's definitely got a little bit of a happier tone to it. Now, I found something interesting that obviously we always talk before the show. Dave and I mention all the time that we talk before the show. Mm-hmm. When we talked about the songs, it's funny because regularly scheduled programming kind of has a similar theme to Dave Matthews Ants Marching, kind of where, everyone's just doing the same goddamn mundane thing all the time. Mm-hmm. And then we go to a song like Great, where it kind of has that Dave Matthews kind of really uplifting sound. And, and you're talking about the positivity of a breakup, but you're still talking about a breakup. So it's like positivity with a negative-ish topic, even though you're talking about the positive rebound. But I don't know. I just kind of threw that connection in there. Dave, any feelings about you on Hack's music? I know obviously both of us always support Hack, but do you think he's trash this time? Like, what do you?
Before you answer that, David, I do want to say I do really thank you guys so much for all the support. Like, it really does mean a lot. Like, every retweet, every anything, like that really does mean the entire world to me.
So right after he said that, first of all, he's always trash. Second of all, I am happy to hear Hack always trying to make different things. I really liked your last EP, Free Time.
Thank you.
But I really enjoy, especially with Great, that you're like trying some different styles of, I mean, it's still your similar flavor, but that's a more of a happier tune than some of the other stuff that you've done.
Yeah, and I just have to say, I'm happy you're still going, because it's real easy to quit. Like the easiest thing to do with something like this, and I think this is a testament to Dave, even us, and what we're doing with podcasting. Like the three of us are sitting here, we're talking, we're trying to be noticed a little more. Like that's obviously the goal. We're putting our voices out there to be heard, to be noticed. You're doing your music to be heard, be noticed. You're doing this show to get a little more notoriety. But it's real easy to sit there and look at it and go, fuck it, this isn't working. Why am I wasting my time?
Yeah.
But it takes a lot. There's a lot of perseverance. And one thing that people don't know about you, I think a lot of people figure that a lot of podcasters these days are doing it on their own inside of an office like I do, kind of, with a little bit of a professional setup. Nobody realizes that you are quite literally doing everything outside of maybe finding the beat. And you do produce some of your own beats, but everything outside of finding some of the beats, everything else is you. Pre-production, post-production, editing, the overlay, all that type of stuff. Hours and hours of things that people get paid millions of dollars to do professionally. You're doing it all, and you're putting out EPs at professional standards. And that's something that I think, you don't get enough props for doing that. And I know Rob Planter has said it a few times. You even put it, I think, on one of your songs about how Rob's like, he's always he's always working. But people people listening now need to realize and appreciate the music that you're doing, because you're not just a singer songwriter. You're your own producer. You're your own editor. You're your own hype man. So it's like, the shit that you're doing is real, much more real than a lot of people are doing. And so, it's just something that, for me, knowing you for years, it's just something to be proud of, honestly, on your end. And even if you stop after these next few songs, you've been grinding for, 4 years, 6 years now, maybe even more, just making music without releasing it. So testament to you and your hard work, dude.
Thank you. That does mean a lot. And yeah, like it kind of makes me tear up a little bit, because we're always so focused on where we want to be, and we really don't. And I was listening to a podcast with David Goggins. I don't know if you know who he is, and he was like, "Yo, you need to just sit back sometimes and just pat yourself on the back." Like, I really, what it is it's a slow descent into some sort of madness. You're sitting in a room by yourself the entire time, and you're just trying to get people to notice you. But there's one thing that I learned from Asta. It's, even if you don't got magic, you fucking never give up, dude. That's what I'm on. And that's what it's going to be. And same thing with you guys,
Yeah. Listen, even if none of us make it there, I'm not going to stop doing this, because all I do is talk. And I run my mouth and I talk my shit anyway. So I might as well put it on every once in a while. That's why I started Sports Opinions Podcast Network, and now transferred to the Alex Cuesta Show. That's why I ended Cuesta Dos, because David doesn't have enough opinions, because he's an asshole. And I don't want to give him any more credit than he deserves. No. But overall, it's just been a fun ride. So those are two of the songs. We'll be ending with another one of Hack's songs. So don't go anywhere with that. I want to jump into our topic, though, because I don't want to make this a marathon, because when us three get on, you're looking at close to an hour and a half every podcast, because once we get into topics, obviously people that listen to me and Dave, and if you've listened to Cuesta Dos before and things like that, and even me, we can both ramble. I'm not going to say we're any sort of authorities or smart people, essentially, but we do pay attention. We do like to ingest knowledge and different types of knowledge. So we do understand and have a concept about the shit that we speak on. And you, at the same time, Hack, you also are falling to that same realm. You're not just an artist. Like, you do like to pay attention and do things. And I know both of you have talked about starting to read more and taking more of a liking to the Bible itself. And I don't know if you guys are doing this on more of a research theologist level, where you're kind of theologian level, where you're just kind of doing the research aspect of it, or if you're actually trying to take it spiritually, or both. Hack, let's start with you. What is the type of journey you're taking with the Bible? Are you trying to get a spiritual uplifting from it, or are you reading it for the knowledge part of it?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I do encourage anybody, even if you don't believe in the contents inside the Bible, these are all stories, and they're stories on which so many other stories are predicated on and based on, you know? Like, I just saw Batman the other day, and the unsung, against all odds hero that's in every superhero film, honestly. And what is that started from? You know, Noah's Ark. A mere man takes on a seemingly impossible task.
I even think you can go to David and Goliath too, as another one that is a good example of the against all odds. Noah, I think you go into more of the doubters, where everyone's doubting and the madness and things like that. And then there's also David and Goliath. What did you say, Dave?
Daniel in the Lion's Den.
Daniel in the Lion's Den is another good one. And like you said, Hack, like I agree with you in the sense that there are some stories that do predate the Bible in that we've held with us, but a lot of the stories and a lot of the concepts that we come up with in the West, especially in the Western culture, is based off of Bible tellings and the type of stories that they told there, whether we know it or not. We are getting a lot of our information, and that comes with any culture. The culture is getting from what their religion is. So, you know, I don't know, what is the religion in Japan? Because you have to think that a lot of their concepts are coming based off of a lot of the Japanese. Do you know the religion in Japan?
No, I do not. I don't know.
We're terrible weebs. I'm looking that up. So Joe, or Hack, whoever I want to call you, I'm calling you by both names. But Dave, no, I'll look it up. You talk for a second, Dave, because what about you in terms of where are you at with the Bible? What's your purpose for starting to endeavor on this read of the Bible?
The primary religion in Japan is Shintoism and Buddhism. Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure.
What the hell's wrong with us?
We should have known with all the rebirth.
Wrong with us?
But either way, I just wanted to find that first. I knew it was quick. My primary reason is it's both, the same as Joe. Both, I kind of want to see what it's like to be a little more spiritual. I've always believed in God. That's kind of just been a part of our family. A belief in God, but not really a belief in church. I would say that's kind of how our family rolled.
Yep.
So I am very interested in reading the Bible and kind of studying in a way. I believe it's either way, it's interesting. I know I've said it before. You can go ahead, Joe.
And another reason I've taken such a liking to the Bible is, you know, it really does lay out a good foundation of how you should live your life, whether you believe in the contents inside it. You know, things aren't inspiring because they're real all the time. Yeah. You know, people draw inspiration from things like Naruto, from Rocky. You know, these are all not real stories, but at times when you're down, they get you through the day, you know. And as somebody who is looking to basically write stories, that's what music is, right? You know, helping people get through hard times by writing stories, sharing your story, maybe making some of it up. It's a good way to learn how to do that. And there's no older tale that has lasted all this time than the Holy Bible.
Yeah, and on your thing, when you talked about Naruto, it's been proven in studies that there's a reason why in poorer communities, they tend to like shonen anime. Because the shonen anime a lot of the time shows the kind of the loser, the guy or girl that's down, that is against all odds, that's looked down upon, that never has a chance to make it, kind of making it and never giving up, facing plenty of trials, tribulations, always being kicked down, looking like they're down and out and dead, but always figuring out a way to get to a new level and rise. And that's why you see a huge popularity in the poor population. And I have to ask you both this, because I know both Hack and you, Dave, and we all are fans of Jordan Peterson. We have all listened to Jordan Peterson speak and do things, you know, especially, and a lot of his philosophy is based around theology. It's based around the study of the Bible. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much you, Hack, listen to James Lindsay, but David also ingests, I believe, some James Lindsay as well. And even though James Lindsay I think he considers himself more agnostic. I don't think he's considers himself full on atheist. I believe he said he was at one point, but he's now kind of walked into the agnostic realm. But even he has read the Bible in full multiple times and talks constantly about the Bible and your Judeo-Christian values when he's talking about his philosophy and comparing it to the religion of Marxism and wokeism and how that type of stuff is going. So he's a perfect example of you don't need to necessarily be religious to understand and use the Bible as, even if you're using it in a research analytics sense, you can understand the goodness of the Bible and why it's good. And then there's Jordan Peterson, who's using it to base his whole philosophy off of. The tales, the teachings, the stories, the moral fibers, the values, the hard work, everything that Jordan Peterson kind of talks about, he brings back to stories of the Bible. And I remember watching some very good debates I need to finish between him and Sam Harris, because Sam Harris is somebody who is a philosopher and he is a brilliant man, but he believes that kind of stories are useless, that they don't have the staying power to kind of be actual teachers, and that stories change as cultures change. So therefore they can't be building blocks. And where Jordan Peterson argues that a good story lasts throughout time, which is why the Bible has lasted for all time. And the stories there are teachable moments and they're relatable and they transcend time. They transcend cultures. Hack, I'm going to get your opinion on this first, because I know you listen to Jordan Peterson. You've read his stuff. How do you feel about the way he uses religion, and kind of do you agree with my tenets on how he feels about the stories? Because I kind of hear a little bit of Jordan Peterson in the way you talk about the stories.
Yeah, there definitely is. He's been a solid influence in my life. And I think you hit the nail on the head, honestly, when it comes to the way he perceives it. And, it goes back to a lot of what he says about, responsibility. I love this story that he explains of, Jesus bearing the cross, when he's betrayed by Pontius Pilate. And I think it's important. The cross kind of represents, and you don't have to believe this actually happened to apply this. He bared the cross. If you bear your responsibility, heaven and hell are real. Whether it is in the afterlife, that's up for debate. But what life is, it's tough, it's hard, but you could either make it heaven or you can make it hell. And if you live by these creeds, listen to these stories, your life will be more of heaven than it is hell.
Now, one thing about Jesus Christ that I think is interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong if anyone knows, from what I've heard and what I've studied and looked, most monotheistic religions all have Jesus in them. In Islam, Jesus is a divine person. He's just not the son of God. He's just a extremely high prophet, second to Muhammad, essentially. Even maybe a step below, but he's one of the divines. In Judaism, he is a heretic, but he has divinity in him. He's just a heretic for saying he's the word of God, that he is the son of God. They believe he's a prophet, but he's a mad prophet. So he's in Judaism. And again, obviously in Christianity. So you talk about whether or not he existed. I believe they proved that Noah's Ark existed. They found the spot where the ark sat, where with wreckages and first forms of wreckage of a gigantic boat that could only be something like built on the ark. So there's been scientific proof essentially that something might have happened like that. And now you have, it's kind of where we fall with like, how do we know, like, I don't know, it's kind of like the mysteries, I guess, with the pyramids being all over the place in the world, like very similar to each other. Why are cultures around the same exact time building the same exact structures? Why are so many religions that are thousands of years old all mentioning this man? And they're in different areas. They're not in the same areas. So there has to be something to be said that whether or not you believe in the divinity of Jesus Christ, the man existed. And the man was either the greatest swindler, the Wizard of Oz, essentially, and really fucking got wool over everyone's eyes in a time where it was, I guess, I don't know, it was maybe a little much more plain, but there's something to be said about whether or not the man existed. Now, Dave, do you have any points to make about Jordan Peterson or maybe Jesus or any of that, like anything, or go off on your own tangent? Go off, Queen.
So don't ever say that. I was just going to say one of the things that really got me into thinking more about religion. Glenn Beck quotes this all the time, bringing up religion. It's a Thomas Jefferson quote. I'm just going to read it out. I don't know if you've ever heard this one, Joe, but I love this quote, and I think it perfectly resembles why someone should read you don't have to read exactly the Bible, but you could just read and try to learn why people follow this. When it goes, fix reason firmly in her seat and call to her tribunal every fact, every opinion, question with boldness even the existence of a God. Because if there be one, he must more approve of the homage of reason than that of blindfolded fear. And that for me just it tells me everything. Like it's not just believe in God. It is find what you believe. It is try to reason things out, because whether God gave you the ability to reason or you just found nature gave the ability to reason, you have it. So utilize it in order to find what you can find in life.
Now, a few things here. I want to talk about agnostics and atheists in general, but I think I might purse this afterwards, because I think what I want to talk about next kind of segues into that. Do you guys think that kind of, there's always been the shift, and this is a Glenn Beck thing as well. It's kind of interesting you brought him up because I was going to. He talked about the we and then me shift, that we're always on a we shift, me shift, we shift, me shift throughout times where society becomes a collectivist we, and you reach that pinnacle, and then it slowly starts to shift down to the me shift, where you go back to the individual. We've seen societies do that. Do you think one of the reasons why there's a lot more people struggling with God, we've seen less and less of religion in our current generation where we've grown up? Just in my 33 years on this world, I've seen the importance of religion go down, 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 and down to the point now where I did a show the other night on sex camps for third and fifth graders that people are running. Like, you don't have religion if you are trying to do that type of shit to children. Yeah, Dave.
So for me, I feel like the reason why that has happened is really two big reasons. One, the effectiveness of the new atheists. They did extraordinarily well pointing out many holes in creationist logic. They did exceptionally well pointing out many holes. Now, they did not bring in any framework after that. So those that are very heavy
atheists have no answers.
Well, but let me just finish real quick. But those who had a very heavy framework in atheism, who let's be honest, they're very logical. They have many good points. So, but those that completely hated religion, ended up hating religion, they don't seem to have a lot of them seem to lose the moral framework that religion could give you. And on the other side, I feel like those, especially in Christianity, lost their ability to persuade people into Christianity. In fact, I would say that is completely evident in the fact of how inclusive they're trying to be in the first place. That's the only reason why they're trying to be as inclusive as they are, because they have lost the ability to persuade people that religion's a good thing. And part of it, I believe, is because some people within the church are pretty crazy. But another part of it is that they became demoralized themselves. They started not believing in the fact that people can enjoy religion, not having to be fervent about it, but understanding that they could believe in God and believe they're in God's hands and not have to just shove it down everyone's throats.
Now, one of the issues I think that comes with kind of the Judeo-Christian religion is the most popular one is Catholicism. And we were both raised Roman Catholic, and Catholicism has a bad name. I don't know if you were raised Roman Catholic, Hack, but you were. So Catholicism has an ugly name, and for good reason. They were a political party for a long time. They do have a really bad issue with their priests that they try to cover up, where Dave, Father, and I talked about this, and that's the one thing they need to do. They need to let priests get married. It's insane what they're doing to these people. God understand that they were man with sexual desires, and they will fail, and you're setting them up for failure. But that's a modern thing, but that's neither here nor there. But I really feel like that's a big issue, because when you branch outside of Catholicism and you go into the other Christian faiths, there is, there is a difference in the way that they approach teaching the religion. Some are close. Episcopal is basically Catholicism. I forget what the difference is. They have like a minor difference in Episcopalian. But I go to a Presbyterian church. It is a different feeling. It's a more relaxed feeling. I've moved over to Presbyterian instead of Catholicism. It's less culty. I'll go out there and just say it. It's very much less culty than a Catholic feeling. And I have nothing wrong with Catholicism besides, being a historian. What I know about the religion kind of pulled me away from it. Mm-hmm. But the school I went to, Marist, the Marist brothers are Catholic. I love them. They were great people. And there is still great Catholics. But I feel like the negativity of Catholicism and how easy it is to be negative about Catholicism and then bunch all Christians into being Catholic. Mm-hmm. And, the rest of the Christians there are genuinely, for the most part, good people. And they're not the type that's going to come out and puff their chests out and say, no, we're not, and really try to fight. They're just going to go, okay, if that's what you believe, come back to faith when you want to. We'll be here for you to teach you the word. But, let God be with you. God understands your plight. Like, it's kind of that way. And I really feel like Catholicism, as much as I love it for giving me my framework, because Catholicism gave me my morals, right? Catholicism gave me my values in terms of what I was taught through religion. But outside of that, I really think Catholicism is hurting the move back to Christianity for a lot of people. Hack, do you have anything?
I couldn't agree more when it comes to, Catholicism, the bad name that it's developed, pushing people away from not even just Christianity, but religion itself. A lot of people who are fairly spiritual or religious are looked at they're looked at kind of negatively, that they're weird, It's funny. I'm reading Carl Jung, The Undiscovered Self, and in the first chapter, and this is kind of going with the atheism chat that we had earlier. A lot of atheists they're Scientology too. There's a lot of that too, and which is oddly religious. He mentions he talks about averages a lot in the first chapter, and and it made me realize science has been wrong so many times. There's a reason that we know what we know, and it's because science has failed us so many times. And the reason we know things in science are because of the constant failure of studies. And Jung actually points out in chapter 1, he says, if you go to a store, right? Let's say you're looking for a 45-pound boulder, and the guy at the store goes, listen, we got what you need. The average weight of all these boulders is 45 pounds. You might not find a 45-pound boulder. You might not find what you want. And he goes, the same thing with humans, when science tries to explain human thought, they're not taking the individual into account. They're taking the average into account, which honestly isn't accurate all the time.
One of the things I want to bring up there, and Dave, I'll let you go afterwards because you definitely have a point. Well, I saw your face. I'm sorry. But I want to say in terms of science, and there's nothing wrong with believing in science and really even think that if you're religious, you still believe in science, especially in the modern age, you realize the value of it. But when you really look into it and realize that even a lot of the science that we believe is theory or strong hypothesis, there are very few true scientific laws in the world. There are very few truths. There are very few absolutes in science. So, and I'm talking kind of like hard science, not your social sciences or whatever, because there is a ton of sciences. But in what everyone's thinking, kind of like, your lab coat type of shit like that, there are very few laws. A lot of the things that we go off of are theories. Gravity is a theory. Gravity is not a law. So a lot of this stuff is theories. And when you have a theory, like you said, Hack, theories can be disproven. Theories could be wrong, and they're disproven and wrong all the time. And that's why you do the scientific method. That's why you rely on empirical data. It's a big deal, and I'm going to bring it up, and I don't know how much people are going to get pissed off about it. But in terms of what the shit that's been going on with COVID, we've been basing a lot of what we've been doing with COVID off of very strong hypothesis, not even theory. Hypothesis, expert hypothesis with very little empirical data and very little stringency on the scientific method. And we've been doing a bunch of shit off it. I get it was an emergency situation, but it's 2 years later and they're still trying to push hypothesis on us, not even full on theory, because there isn't enough empirical data for it. And that kind of goes with what you're saying, Hack, and kind of goes with what Jung said, where it's not foolproof. It isn't foolproof. And again, if you want to believe in science, that's fine. But believing in science doesn't give you any reason to not believe in religion, because both have the ability to be wrong. Like, it's kind of, and I think that's what Jung's trying to get. I think that's what you were trying to get at, Hack, as well, that just because you think religion could be wrong doesn't mean that there's no value in it. So, Dave, do you have anything you want to bring in here? We kind of bulldozed you there. So
funny enough, I'm going to throw two new things into this conversation because it made me think of the Age of Enlightenment, which always gets brought up. People, it seems like people always know what the Age of Enlightenment is and what that brought to us. And it brought many great things. That basically brought science to us, really, if you think of it.
Modernity really is here. Yeah,
exactly. Modernity. But the period that a lot of people don't talk about, at least for me, that I feel like was very needed and people should bring up more, is the period of Romanticism that came after it. Because the Age of Enlightenment very much dealt with rational human thought, logic, and reasoning. And obviously, because that should be something that you think of. You should be rational. You should be logical. But also, why Romanticism came after and tried to poke holes in it is because there is something about the irrationality of man. There is something about the feelings of a person that means a lot. So listen, I get it, because facts don't care about your feelings. Reality doesn't care about your feelings, but also in human nature, your feelings do not care about reality and about certain things. And that affects people greatly. So, I mean, for me, balance has always been a great part of life for me. So I feel like swinging one way too much in general is bad. Now, I always felt like there should be a mix of rationality and irrationality, and you should understand that irrationality is going to be consistently a thing in human nature. And I feel like that is actually a part of what religion brings in, especially since you are born with sin. You are born with this irrationality about you, that you will do things that will hurt others when sometimes you don't mean to. You will do things that will hurt yourself when you don't mean to. And it's for me, it's a similar argument of just rationality versus irrationality.
Now, Dave, on that point, do you think that's kind of why we switched into a time of like true postmodernity right now, where we are officially, I think, past modernity? We're officially past thinking in the rationality, thinking in empirical data way, in the scientific method type of way. And we're definitely in more of a post-modernity time with the wokeism and with a lot of the leftist theory and a big rise in Marxism, because it's veiled Marxism. A lot of wokeism is veiled Marxism. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what Marxism is, definitely go read the Communist Manifesto #1. That is a big start to it, because if you can read the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx is not this superhuman great philosopher. He really isn't. He's okay. He's very contradictory. And there's a point where it's in the manuscripts and thesis, I think it's earlier on, where he basically says, don't ask any questions. If you have any doubts, don't ask any questions. Don't doubt me. It's that type of thing. And another person, I mentioned James Lindsay, go listen to New Discourses if you want to learn more about why Marxism is a theology. He just did one not too long ago on that. What do you got for me, Hack?
I mean, going off Karl Marx, this guy is extremely nihilistic. He is, like you said, contradictory. And I don't mean to bash anybody who...
Oh, I do.
You know, but it's really a miserable way to look at life. It really is. It makes every day so much longer if you look at it like he does, you know? Whether we're going to be alive after we die, that doesn't matter. I still want to enjoy life, you know?
Certainly. That's a good point. Dave, you said you had a second topic to inject here. You said you had two things.
That was my topic, Enlightenment versus Romanticism.
Okay.
But funny enough, the way you bring that up, Joe, is that some people might hear you say that he was nihilistic about life, and they might say, well, if you believe in God, if you believe in Christianity, you say you're born in sin. Wouldn't that be nihilistic? Wouldn't that be like thinking down? And for me, I feel like if you see it that way, then you don't truly understand what Christianity says about being born in sin. Because since everyone is born in sin, and since everyone also has the flesh of God, we know that there is an issue with, we all have problems, and we all have the ability to work through it. And luckily enough, Jesus Christ came along, and he is the Redeemer. He redeemed our sins for us. That doesn't mean you don't stop working on your sins, but you always work to be a better you. You always work to become as close to Jesus's footsteps as you could be.
Yeah, and I really think, David, you hit the nail on the head, and I got chills when you said it, that the whole premise of the Bible is to try to teach people to be like Jesus, to become the King of Kings. Now, let's really think about what they mean by that. Is the King of Kings an all-powerful being? Is he the king of actual kings, or is he the best of everyone? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I look up to people. Jesus is someone you should look up to, because I look up to, let's say, Conor McGregor, his work ethic. This guy's getting into bar fights every other week. That is not a redeeming quality. Now, I look up to Kanye, his artistic prowess, right? But he's going nuts on Twitter all the time. That is another negative quality. Apparently he's harassing Kim Kardashian, a negative quality. Now, when you look at the King of Kings, he has Connor's work ethic, but he's not getting into bar fights.
I mean, but if you look at the King of Kings, though, when you read about Jesus, Jesus was a man in every which way. He experienced anger. He experienced hatred. When he was first growing into a man, it's a great story about Jesus Christ where it humanizes him, is when he entered into his formidable years and he went to go to the where'd they go? Jerusalem. I think we were in Jerusalem in the temple, and there were the collectors, the money collectors. He got furious, went and flipped the tables with righteous indignation, and says, "How dare you in the house of my father do this?" And that's the thing that people get. Everyone's like, "Oh, Jesus is a pacifist." He said, "Turn the other cheek." Yes, but there is also time for righteous indignation, and Jesus does it on multiple occasions in the New Testament, and it goes with God and the way God was in the Old Testament. Jesus is much nicer than God was in the Old Testament. God in the Old Testament was a fucking OG. Like, he tested and tested and tested humankind. And I think the way that people, and one thing, like, if you only hear about the original sin and you're thinking it's a negative book, and that means you never read past the creation, or maybe you didn't even read it, you just heard about it. Because when you read through it, one of the things that I always took from the Bible is we are created in the image of God. So that means that we have the ability within us to all have a slice of God, to get closer to God. The ability is there. We will fall. We will falter. There is a great chance that we never achieve it before our death. But as long as we are always attempting to get there, there's salvation for us.
Yeah, and especially I like that, how we all have a piece of God in us, technically, given the wording. But at the same time, dude, God wasn't in Genesis. If you read Genesis, he made a mistake. He realized that, all these people are just like ripping each other right now. They're killing there. And I would also like to argue that I think lying is the worst sin. The Bible paints as the worst sin, but we could get into that later. But even God made mistakes. He was like, you know what? I'm just going to flood everything. Noah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and I actually just want to put in here, because I think it's very important to realize, is that when we talk, especially Alex, since you brought up Marxism and wokeism and the way that, like, James Lindsay just basically describes it as a religion, you have to realize that with Christianity in that religion, the reason why it is not negative to have the original sin and everything is because there is redemption. Like you said, you could fall, but you could always redeem yourself. You have redemption possible within your life. So that is why that is specifically why it's not negative, because it gives you the ability to redeem yourself.
And I'll just put this out there for anyone that questions that Marxism is a religion, real quick, just in the way that it was broken down. It has a origin story, a creation story about man, and it has an original sin, taking work, which is the holy action, and turning it into labor. That was the original sin, allowing work to become labor, to become profited and distributed work. And then there is the redemption arc, becoming the social man, raising your social consciousness in order to get back to the point where work has meaning and there is no actual labor. And then you could live in your utopia because man is God. That is where it is theologian. And if you actually read through Marx or hear how Marxists talk or wokeists talk, it is a religious way of speaking. They speak in that cult consciousness manner.
Listen to their chants.
You listen to their chants. You need to gain a consciousness about this certain thing in order to get to this certain level. And it's always about getting somewhere. Now, where they add on is they go into, and the issue is they speak in dialectics. They always problematize. There's always another issue to get to, where the difference between Marxism and Christianity, there is a goal. There is something in the end. There is something to solve all the problems. That is living good life and entering into the kingdom of God, or going to hell if you do wrong. There is two places. And then there was purgatory added, but I think that's a Catholic thing. I don't think that's an all Christian thing. So it's again, I'm not going to go on a tangent. I could just reword, James Lindsay's whole podcast on why theology is Marxism is a theology, but I'm not going to do that. But we're going to stick to kind of the Christian talk. Now, one of the things I want to bring up, and we're long here, but I don't care. I love this conversation. One of the things that I wanted to bring up is, we mentioned atheists and agnostics, and there's some there that, and you said the new atheists do a great job of poking holes in creationism, and even agnostics, if they can't see it in front of them, it's difficult for them to believe. It's not like they necessarily don't believe in the higher power of spirituality, but they don't believe it in the Gnostic sense. So one of the things about them, and a lot of them will sit there and say, well, our moral framework is inherited. We just know it. And that's just not true. Because I kind of want to argue that somewhere down the line in everybody's lineage, someone down the line was influenced by religion. Not, and taking out the fact that our state was influenced by the Ten Commandments and religion, the Bill of Rights, and the things that we do, the laws that we follow are based off the Ten Commandments and the Judeo-Christian value system. But just internally, inherently in your family structure, somebody was religious. One of your patriarchs or matriarchs or whoever led the family was religious at one point. And it took you out of being this savage individual. And it gave you a fiber. It gave you a moral framework of understanding why going to steal from your neighbor is bad. And instead of going to just take whatever the fuck you want from them, maybe talk to them. And maybe try to figure out why they want to steal from you, instead of automatically going to fight with them. And there was a time there where someone in your family got to that point where they decided that the religious framework, the values, the morals that they taught were better to impart on their family. And that has been passed down and passed down and passed down. So even if now you're an atheist, you don't understand that killing is bad just because somehow in the human psyche we know it. No, we're animals. We don't give a fuck. If we weren't taught somewhere down the line that killing each other was bad, we would still be doing it and we wouldn't care. So to me, it's just one thing that I think it's kind of denial and a little bit of ignorance in some of the ways with the agnostic and atheist group, that they think that just inherently somehow, and that's kind of a little Marxist theory there, that because they're man inherently, they're the creator, so they understand it right away. No, you don't. You're not perfect. We see that. No one's perfect. We're all born imperfect. But we all have these values placed upon us somehow by religion. It's not just Christianity either. It's wherever you're from. If you're from a Muslim area, you cannot believe in Islam, but you get basic values from Islam. If you're in China and Japan, we talk about Buddhism and Shinto. You're getting your values from those systems, whether you believe in them or not. So, Dave, got anything else? You're just swaying over there.
Oh, well, I was going to say that it makes it really interesting because, I mean, you just go back to really basically one of the beginning stories of the Bible, Adam and Eve. And what happens? Biting fruit, tree of knowledge. They now know that they're naked. They have knowledge, and it's an act of rebellion towards God. So they now know the things that God was going to teach them, and they have that knowledge. And it's more of serving man than serving God at that point. So that's basically what you're getting at, and that's in the Bible as well. And what makes it really interesting, and why there are believers and why there are atheists and agnostics, is because it's not really provable. It's not, God is not provable, and is not disprovable, and that's the problem.
That's why it's called faith.
Exactly. That's exactly why it's called faith.
Yeah.
But that's also why I completely understand why people will say, like, it's just natural. They naturally understand it. Because even in the story from the Bible, it kind of makes sense. I completely understand what you're saying, and I think it's logically consistent. But also in the story of the Bible, you do serve yourself as well. You are in an act of rebellion towards God every day, because you will serve yourself over God sometimes. And by doing that, you do know some of the natural rights. So for me, that's part of what the big question is, obviously. So that's why I will never, I'm not saying you are, but I will never give someone a hard time for saying any of that stuff. I will maybe argue, because that'd be fun. I just like the argument.
Now we're going to argue a little here, because sorry, Hack, I got to jump in. Now, is that with what Adam and Eve gets, is that kind of a consciousness of knowing the natural way of order and knowing the things of God? Or is it a self-conscious and a vanity? And, where before Adam and Eve were like animals and they lived a perfect world and they were ignorant to be shy. They didn't know to be shy. Animals don't know to be shy, that they're naked. They don't understand that is something to have self-conscious about. Or was it less of that they got the knowledge of God and more of that they got hit with the sin of vanity, and they got hit with the sin of the self-conscious, and he opened up their world to that type of thing? Because they only took bites from the tree of knowledge. It's not like they ate a full piece of fruit. It's not they ate more. So they got a little bit, and God limited what they were allowed to know.
Yeah, I'm not saying they got the full knowledge of God, but what I am saying is that a lot more opened up to them. So obviously, like you said, sin of vanity, they realized that they were naked, like multiple sins opened up. But I'm just saying that within that, they also gained a good amount of knowledge that more
previously did not have.
Not only previously did not have, but God teaches you that. God gives you that. You don't give it to yourself.
All right. So I don't want to go too much. I think we had a really good discussion about this already. I want to get to I just want to get some final words. Hack, I'm going to give you the floor to just kind of say about whatever you want about the topic. If it branches off into another discussion, I kind of don't care, but I'm going to try and keep it to a final. So Hack, what do you got to kind of go round table this before we kind of end the show here?
Yeah, all in all, I just want to reemphasize the Bible's importance on people's lives. My dad, he always told me, especially this is when it was referring to football, but I've really adapted this and I live by it. And, he's like, look around. Everyone's doing the right thing right now because coach is looking. The difference between you and someone else is whether you do the right thing when no one is looking. So that is, do the right thing even when no one is looking. That is 110% how I base my life. I'm working out in the field. I'm dumping water. Maybe a little bit of paper falls out of the bucket. I could just leave it there. It's only a little piece of paper, but hey, even when no one's looking, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to throw it out. I'm going to take care of the environment, and, it's just trying to be more like the King of Kings, what is, and I have a question for you guys just to wrap things.
Yep.
I gave a value of something at the Bible, something that somewhat has been passed down to me. What is a value that you guys got either from it being passed down to you or reading from the Bible?
Dave, I'm going to put that one on you first because I want to think about it. So how does that sound? I'm going right to you first because I want to, because there's a lot that comes from it.
There is so much.
I think, maybe I'll jump in real quick. I think we mentioned in kind of like the hero stories, but in almost every story, even the story of Jesus as a total, and you go back to the Old Testament, it's always God's test is a test of perseverance. It's a test of your will, your faith, and inner strength. Coming down from the Old Testament test that he puts on to people like Abraham and all the different people that we see that he either strikes down or all the things that he does, but it's always a test of man and perseverance. And the beauty of the Bible is not everyone succeeds in these tests. Not every time you succeed. And not necessarily that they're going to die in the Bible, because a lot of them don't, but they fall. But there is the redemption that comes. And it's kind of symbolism of what Christianity is. We mentioned when you fall, you can rise. God knows you're going to sin.
To jump off that, Jesus literally fell. Well,
yes.
What was it? 3 times while bearing the cross? I'm sure it was more than that.
Yeah. And people forget. Jesus lived a normal life as a child for the most part, up until he got into his teenage years when he finally was like, okay, I need to enter into the world of God. Like I am the son of Jesus. I need to start acting like it. He was always different than the other kids, but it wasn't like he was performing miracles his whole life.
No.
Everyone acknowledged who he was, but kind of, I guess what I take from the whole thing is just kind of persevere through it all. Don't be afraid to fall. Mm-hmm. Because whether you fall hard, whether you fall big, whether you fall small, whether you do something absolutely terrible, there is redemption. There is always redemption. And if you have faith, you will always be forgiven. And I feel like that belief there, if you believe that God can forgive you, there's no reason why you can't forgive you when you have these types of things. If you believe that the Almighty is going to forgive you, then it's able to bring inner peace to you. And I feel like that's why a lot of people that go through shit, when they find God, they're able to find God, and that helps them. Because if the Almighty understands you and that you're going to fail and that it's okay, it's easier for you to accept that it's okay. So I feel like that's my big take from the Bible overall, is just persevere. Don't be afraid to fall and fail. There is always redemption. Dave, what do you got?
So I will say, I just want to add, I wouldn't even say going to forgive you. I would say already forgiven you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get specific because it's honestly on the same kind of vein that you brought up. But the book of Job, very, very good story from the Bible for me. And it shows, like you said, perseverance, but also faith, suffering and suffering and suffering. It's still keeping your faith. And it doesn't have to be faith in God. Just like you said with perseverance, you suffer, and just like we talked about earlier, like going and going and going and pushing and having the faith that you are making it to the end of this, that you are still getting out at a better place. As we talked about how we're trying to get out there, Joe's trying to get out there in music. Right now, obviously it's not clicking great, but you go and you go and you go with the faith that one day it'll get better. Mm-hmm. One day something's going to open up. One day it might not even be explained because then he asked God, and God can't explain it to him because he won't understand God's reasoning. But that's the thing, is you might not even understand the reasoning of why you got to where you got to from your journey, but you get there anyway. And just to wrap this all up, I understand this is a very religion-heavy podcast. In fact, this is a much more serious topic than we've done the past couple of weeks, but I like it a lot.
Definitely.
And for me, I brought this up a lot we've brought this up a bunch in shows, Alex, but for me, it doesn't have to be about the Bible. You can learn from stories upon stories upon stories. It doesn't have to be from the Bible. It doesn't have to be from Scripture. Obviously, this is about Scripture and the Bible, but stories upon stories upon stories, whether it's nonfiction or whether it's fiction. Engulf yourself in stories. You will learn things that you never thought you would learn from them. You may not even take from it immediately after reading it. You will get to a point in your life where you'll think back and say, wow, something similar I learned from this book, not even consciously, comes up in your head in a moment in life. So consistently be improving, consistently be going through life, learning. And I mean, that's, for me, that's what the Bible is. Yeah. I know for you guys, that's basically what that seems to be what the Bible is as well. But whether or not it's the Bible, go out there and improve yourself.
Yeah. I think you could melt it all down to a solid couple sentences, and you did a great job doing that. I think it's the book of Matthew where it goes through the crucifixion, the trial, and, bear your cross, bear your responsibility for the betterment of not just for you, at the expense of you at times, for the betterment of everyone around you. And I think that is the ultimate goal. Bear that responsibility to make everybody else, to lift everybody else up. And if that's not a story that people can't get behind, I don't know what it is.
And I think we'll end up with this. I encourage everyone to read the Bible, which I think both of you do. I encourage everyone to read any holy book you want, because they all have good redeeming qualities. Even the Quran. If you've never read the Quran, don't believe everything you hear about just Sharia law. That is one part of the Quran and Islam. And I fight with people all the time about it, that it is not a violent religion. Yes, they have violent parts in it, but so does the Bible. Read the old friggin' Testament. Anyway, read a holy book, interpret the holy book yourself. Don't let anyone tell you your interpretation is wrong. When the divine word is being spoken to you, it is internal to you. And what you take from it is what it means. You can debate it and mold it with others, but don't let anyone tell you you're wrong. Number one. Number two, my final word to close this out. If you're going through an issue, please use the holy men that you know in your life. They know the Bible. They know the stories. There isn't an issue that you are going through that they don't have a story for you to read that can't help you or potentially help you get to a better mind state. Anything you're going through, drugs, drinking, adultery, fighting, internal struggles about sexuality, they're all there. There is a story in the Bible for all of it. You don't have to believe either. Read it as you would read a textbook. You will still get something out of it. Use the holy individuals. Don't believe that they're all Catholic priests touching little boys. They're not. 95% of your Catholic priests are fantastic humans. 95% of your pastors are amazing people. And even pastors' wives are extremely religious and know things. Use the holy people in your life that know the Bible. They will help guide you. You don't have to be religious. Like we've talked about, those stories are meant to guide. And there is a story there, even in this modern time, for everything that we go through as humans currently. Hack, I'll give you last word before we do your song.
No, you hit the nail on the freaking head, dude. Like that. I wanted to end it on that because I was going to add something and then you said it. So yeah, that was fire.
All right. So everyone, again, this was much deeper. I enjoyed it. I don't mind doing this type of deep stuff. Maybe Hack will be more of a mainstay if he would want to be. I don't know. It's up to him. But this was fun.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Like, I'm here.
This was lots of fun. If you enjoyed what you heard today, and you enjoy what you hear on the other podcast, give us a like, share, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Search the Alex Questa Show on all the socials. And before we close out, Hack, we got one more song. It's named Smoking Gun. Give me a little background about the song, and we're going to close out the episode with this song.
So it's called Smoking Gun, and it's basically about like unexpected betrayal. And I kind of kind of compare that betrayal with a crime scene where someone was shot or stabbed, and there's like a chase and everything, you know.
All right. So with that, I hope everyone enjoyed the show. We will be back next week. I hope everyone has a good closeout to their weekend. So long, everybody.
High-speed chase and she got away. I don't even know why I tried today. She'd look me dead in the eyes, stab me in the stomach with a straight face. But even if she ever got caught, I don't think that I could ever press charge. Let me bleed, but girl, my love is so large. You'll always be the number one in my heart. Fuck, there you go assaulting me. I'm just trying to find a way that you would ball with me. You be carrying on my heart and barely calling me. Everybody leaves and I'm just wondering what's wrong with me. My mind is racing, all this fake shit.